G'day mates, and welcome back to another episode of KruisComm-entates Skyrim. We're here in Rorikstead. On our way, I've placed a marker down on the map to go up here to Rebel's Kang, so I'm going to follow a path in that general direction, and we will just deal with anything that is along our path. So, recent news. I arrived back from Melbourne, Australia, yesterday evening, and I actually had a really good time there. Despite Sydneyites like myself always being quite condescending about Melbourne, it's my first real experience. I had been to Melbourne before. However, I was way too young to remember it. I don't know how old I was at one. It was somewhere between 1 and 3. My mother and I could not agree on it. But yeah, so really my first experience of Melbourne. My first real experience. But we went down there for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for my grandfather's 90th birthday, and he is doing bloody well for 90. Let's check out Lund's hut. It's been taken over by animals. Of course they attack me as soon as I walk in the door. But yeah, I actually really liked Melbourne. Having grown up, born and raised in Sydney, I do still prefer Sydney, but I enjoyed Melbourne a lot more than expected. My mother and aunt both hate Melbourne, and I couldn't see why. We had an unexpectedly smooth trip there and back. So, considering that we left on a Saturday morning and came back on a Sunday evening, we had barely any traffic on the way. We had a really quick. Usually, it's about with moderate traffic between our area and the Sydney airport. It's usually about an hour of an hour's long trip. We got there in 45 minutes, and then going through Sydney airport, it took us maybe 20 minutes to get through the domestic customs and all that kind of stuff. Had our bags checked and everything. We were straight through. Queue was not very long at all, and we ended up getting in there with quite a lot of time to spare. So we just went shopping around the terminal for a little bit. Had breakfast in my case. And our flight was at 12 o'clock. Flight was early, actually. It was early. It left early and arrived in Melbourne earlier than it was supposed to, by about 15 minutes. So it wasn't hugely significant, but it's surprising nonetheless for an airport. So the only problems, and we had barely any traffic once we got to Melbourne, and same coming back pretty much. The only problem we had with the trip was we had a bit of a delayed pickup. We had hired a private car to come and pick us up because it just ends up being cheaper than a taxi. And they were quite late. In fact, the one that we were supposed to get never turned up, and the company ended up calling on someone else who was already there to take us. But that was, I mean, we didn't really mind that. We waited there for about 15 minutes before we called them to see what was happening, and it all got sorted out very quickly. But yeah, otherwise we managed to catch very little hindrances in the trip, and uncharacteristically good weather in Melbourne. It's renowned for one saying about Melbourne from Melbourneites is, if you don't like the weather in Melbourne, wait 10 minutes. We had sun throughout the entire weekend. We didn't get a single bit of bad weather. This, oh my god, I can finally get this out of my inventory. Ha! Nice. I did not know this was where this was. Anyway. So once we were there, we checked into our hotel, which was the Sheraton, in the just outside the CBD. Is it in, I don't know if it's in or just outside the CBD, Melbourne CBD. But they were pretty good. We booked 2 rooms, one for my aunt, one for my mum and I. And our room was, they put us in the wrong room. We booked a room with 2 beds, and they put us in a very small room with only 1 bed. And so we spoke to them about it, and they were very good. They just moved us a couple of rooms down the hall, and it was all sorted. And that was a nice hotel. It wasn't a super amazing hotel. I've been to better, but it was all it needed to be. Sage and I were discussing travelling in hotels, and we both agreed on the fact that if it's got walls, a roof, a bed that does its job, and a bathroom, that's all I care about. I don't really care how good, or I don't really care how comfortable the bed is, just as long as I can sleep in it. And I don't care what the walls look like, and I don't care what the room looks like. I just want it to be functional, because I'm not going to spend all my time in the hotel. That's my view of hotels, basically. I want that frost cloak, because I may as well... I'm not buying one, but I may as well take it if it's there, offered to me. I'm not going to take that. I will take that. And that. Not that. Some of this stuff's really nice. Now I do have some notes over here on the right, because there was some stuff that I really wanted to address and talk about this episode. And you might get a bit of a long episode, because I can't see my timer at the moment, and I neglected to put another one down due to my notes. And is there anywhere else that I can go here, or is this just it? It's cleared. Okay, fine. This place wasn't particularly special in any way. Whatever. Oh wait, did I search the guy? I think I did. But yeah, after we had checked into our hotel, put our stuff down, and done our business, we went out for just a bit of a walk around Melbourne, because my mother and aunt wanted to go shopping a little bit, and I just wandered around. I had my my nice DSLR camera. Took some photos with that. Not particularly great photos, a lot of them, but I'll upload the ones that I think are okay, and you'll get to see them either on my DeviantArt or in the vlog that is upcoming, and I'll talk about that as well later, probably next episode of Skyrim. Oh no, I don't need to, because this episode will be probably coming out after the vlog, so there you go, you've seen the vlog. But yeah, it was starting to get late, and while I was walking around, it got dark, and this is where Melbourne really differentiated itself from Sydney, is the nightlife, or what I saw of it. Well, actually the entire time we were walking around, there were buskers everywhere, street music all the time, loads of different instruments being played all the time, and it was just really cool. I stood in I stood and watched one guy play keyboard for I think an hour and a half. He was amazing. He was really good. It was really good, and actually, it was just a fun time. That door is barred from the other side. Sorry about that. That door is barred from the other side. I can't go through there, as you saw. So the night, and there were so many people compared to Sydney. There were so many people. I have never been to a city with that many people. I've been to obviously I've been to Sydney, I've been to Melbourne now, and I've been to Perth. I've also been to Zurich in Switzerland, and I've been to Bangkok in Thailand. Bangkok is the only one out of those that can even get close to rivaling Melbourne, which it does. Bangkok is much busier than Melbourne. But Melbourne is so big. For an Australian city, Melbourne was so busy. There were just always heaps and heaps of people walking around. Especially at night. I was going to say even at night, but especially at night. I didn't mean to do that. I actually meant to switch to this. And then dual tap. Thank you. I didn't even touch him. Let's just go in here. Okay. I wasn't expecting that to be open. Steel Nordic Gauntlets, don't care. Also, Melbourne seemed cleaner than Sydney. I don't know why. It was. I think it's more of a modern, slightly more modern city, and it was more planned. It's a lot squarer than Sydney, and I think that contributed to the fact that it seemed cleaner. Just because it was, I'll tell you, seeing Melbourne from above and seeing Sydney from above at night time. With Melbourne, you can see big long lines of streetlights along the very straight roads, and perfectly straight lines of street lines in a big grid. It's not quite American city style, but it's close. Around the CBD. It kind of, parts of it sprawl and parts of it are perfectly aligned. In Sydney, you see Sydney from above, and you can see at nighttime. There is not a straight line anywhere. I challenge you to find a straight line in nighttime Sydney, because Sydney was built just with the landscape. It just kind of sprawled further and further out as it was built. Not really planned, which is contrast to Melbourne. Also trams. I don't know how many people would know what a tram is. I don't know if Americans would know what a tram is, for example, because I don't know if they have trams, or if they've heard of trams, or if they used to have trams, or whatever. But a tram is, I mean, it's essentially a bus on rails in the middle of the road. I can't fathom people not knowing what a tram is, but I can't assume that they do. So I will explain it. Yeah, essentially a bus on rails. The vlog, I did take a couple videos on the tram that we went on, but they were a new experience. It was unexpected that that the one we were on did definitely feel more turbulent than a bus. I generally can stand up without holding onto something fairly easily on a bus, but on the tram, I actually found it really difficult to not fall over while standing up in the middle of the aisle. So I guess maybe it was our tram or the route that we were on, but yeah, it was unexpectedly turbulent compared to a bus. It was also more impersonal, I noticed, because the driver was locked away in a little sort of enclosure. It had you could talk to him if you knocked. He never looked at you when you got on. He never looked at you, never talked to you, never said anything. He just was completely impersonal. And the payment system is ridiculous. It's such a stupid payment system, and that's the one thing that we found a little silly with it. And a bit of a funny story. We didn't know about the payment system. How it works is you have to go into a 7-Eleven, or which is a convenience store, and buy what's called a My Key. You go, and that is essentially your ticket, and I think it has a certain amount of money allocated to it, and you tap onto the tram, tap off the tram, and eventually the My Key runs out. You go get another one. But we didn't know that, and no one told us that. And we got on what happened was we went down to the train station initially with all of our luggage, because we were heading out to where my grandfather lives, which is about 45 minutes away from the city. I'm going in the wrong direction. And so we went down to the train station to see if we could catch a train out there. But when we spoke to the ticket person, she recommended taking a tram because it would be a lot easier, apparently. And so she directed us to the closest tram station, and we went down there, and as soon as we came within sight, we could see the tram pulling up, and we were just... So we, got there, didn't have time to read anything on the stop itself, and just jumped on the tram. And we got our wallets out, and were ready to pay like you would on a bus, but the driver didn't even look at us. Everyone else was just walking through, and so we just were like, oh, okay, and walked on through with them. Got our seats and whatever. And halfway into the trip, we asked some girls sitting opposite us, how do we pay? Because we hadn't seen anyone pay the driver or anything, and we had no idea. And they said, and their immediate response was, oh. And so and so they explained the My Key thing to us, and we didn't have a My Key, but and we ended up getting, because of it, because the driver doesn't pay any attention and there's no conductor or anything on the tram, we just ended up getting a free tram ride all the way from CBD to 40 minutes away. So that was quite the experience. So that's what you do if you ever go to Melbourne, is pretend that you don't know about the My Key, and then you'll go away with a free tram ride for however far you want to go. Because it was the second last stop too. We went from the second stop to the second last stop, completely free. I want to go to Carthwestern. Which way leads to Carthwestern? I would assume this way. And what's over there? Oh, there's a shrine up there somewhere. So trams were quite a new experience. Now, there's one thing I really wanted to talk about, and this is the main topic of this episode, and that was the restaurant that we went to for dinner on the Saturday night. It was called Number 35, spelled NO 35, and it was on floor 35 of the Sofitel Hotel. I'm going to stop and listen to this dialogue.
I want you sellswords out of my mind.
Watch your tongue, native. We'll leave when we're sure there's no Forsworn here.
Oh, and when would that be, I wonder? When I sell my land to the Silverbloods?
The Silverbloods have made you a very generous offer for this pile of dirt. I suggest you take it.
Yeah, number 35 on floor 35 of the Sofitel Hotel. I'm gonna say I have been to quite a few very good restaurants, but I have never been more impressed by a restaurant in my life, and here's why. So it was a really fancy place. It was on floor 35, windows all around. You could see the entire city of Melbourne from any seat, and it was nighttime, so fucking amazing view. I'm gonna head to this shrine. Really fancy place. Really, you know, just top of the line. Everything was perfectly done, and you know, you can imagine what I'm talking about. So our first expectations were that it was going to be very posh and snobby, essentially, because I've been to a couple of those things before. But service was fantastic from the get-go. It was just flawless. We walked in the door. We stayed at our reservation. We were shown instantly to moodily lit table for 5, and they removed our coats for us and stowed them away safely where they wouldn't be stolen, ready for us to take them back when we were leaving. What's this book that I've just picked up? I've apparently already read it. I'm going to drop it because I don't need to carry it. And obviously the view from the table is stunning. We got there after it was full dark, and the entire city of Melbourne was lit up, and it was absolutely stunning. Why can't I get to this shrine? Where is the path to this shrine? Probably just over there, and I should have gone up that way. Yep. I'm silly. But this is how you do things in Skyrim, right? We had no fuss ordering food at all. The waiter was genuine and really likable, despite, you know, all of our expectations. And so we ordered our food, and no problem doing that, and beverages, everything. So the entrees come out after a bit of a wait, and they're a little bit on the small side, you know, especially for someone like me who likes to eat a hell of a lot. And so our instant reaction is, oh, it's going to be one of those places. And you know what I mean. Oh, what? Okay, I don't have to talk to this guy, apparently. Oh, I don't have to speak to this guy yet, I mean. But just, you know, one of those places where you get very little food for a huge price. That's what we thought as soon as the entrees came out, because the entrees were not big at all. I've seen most entrees that I've seen in my life are bigger than those. But despite the size, the entrees were insanely good. They were delicious. And I had this. You can go to their website if you search no.30 space no dot space 35 Sofitel, Melbourne, Australia. You should get their website, and you can see the menu from there. I had the spiced duck for my entree, which was really good, and I do love duck. Sorry, I was just having a bit of a stretch. I will come back here next episode. Bloody birds. And so once the entrees were eaten, the table was cleared, prepared for the mains to come out. And when the mains did come out, they were huge. All our expectations were thrown out the window. The mains were absolutely huge. Actually no, a couple people did finish theirs. I think I helped someone finish theirs off, and the mains were my size, So, you know, we had our mains, which were really, really, really good. I had I had the blue eye cod that's on the menu there. You know, all of them were really good. And so we had them, and the staff allowed us a bit of time to digest the mains and, you know, have a bit of conversation before they came out to clear the table. And they even did a full clean on the surface of the table without interfering in our conversation. They cleared the whole thing up, made sure it was nice and clean for to get ready for dessert. So got all the food that we'd spilled, which wasn't much, but got all that off it. And oh, I recognize this place. Is this person going to try and kill me? Yeah. Afflicted. Oh yeah, I do know this place from something. Someone's trying to kill me with ice. Yeah, fully cleaned the table, ready for dessert. A few minutes later, our waiter emerged from the back carrying a birthday cake with candles on top for my grandfather. And all the staff began to sing. Really, really nice of them. Once the song was over and the candles were blown out, all that jazz, they took the cake back to be cut and properly served. It was strawberry cheesecake, if you look that up in the dessert part of the menu. On their website, as I said. That's the way out. I can guarantee that. Now, my mum is allergic to most tree nuts. Not anaphylaxis. Well, actually, anaphylaxis for certain ones. Cashews being the main problem for her. And it turned out that the cake had pistachios, a tiny, tiny amount of pistachios in it. And the waiter, he hadn't thought to ask about it because they weren't easily visible and it was a cheesecake. And yes, I know, nuts in cheesecake is not uncommon, but it's not particularly common, at least here it's not. I reckon I have to come here later for a quest, so I can't get through there. And I don't blame the waiter at all for not asking about the cheesecake. We hadn't had a problem up until then. A lot of their food had nuts in it, but we hadn't had a single problem because he'd asked, he was good with it. But he hadn't thought to ask about the cake, and I really do not blame him. He was highly apologetic, and when Mum had a very minor allergic reaction. It was just itchiness around the throat, mouth, and ears, and that just went on for you know, about 15 minutes or more. It was longer than that. It was about half an hour of just itchiness. And for anyone who's had an allergic reaction, I'm sure you know what it's like. But it was only minor. It wasn't super bad. And they were, you know, the staff were all clearly, genuinely concerned about her. Now I know, I'm aware of why restaurant staff may be concerned about someone having an allergic reaction, but they actually seemed really worried about her livelihood. And that impressed me, because of some of the other restaurants that I've been to. They were asking if I'm needing an ambulance or an EpiPen. Now, an EpiPen, by the way, for those who don't know, I don't know if it's an Australian thing or what. But an EpiPen, if you don't know, is a it's a large syringe style thing with safety caps, and it's very easy to use. But it's an adrenaline shot. Gives you a shot of adrenaline for if you're having an allergic reaction, so that it gives you more time to get to hospital. And so they were offering. They asked if she needed an EpiPen or if she needed to go get an ambulance. But we refused. We politely refused, and eventually they just settled for bringing out water refills and got her glass of water and everything, and that was really good. And the manager came out to speak to her directly, which was good of them. In the end, we ended up tipping our waiter 30% of the bill. Now, I believe that... Ooh, that was close. I believe that the American standard for tipping a waiter is 10%. I could be wrong on that one. But we ended up tipping him 30% because we were highly impressed with our waiter. And they even, put the remainder of the cake that we hadn't eaten into a nice fancy little box for my grandparents to take home. Not for us to take home, we weren't going to eat that again, even though it was really good. So yeah, I've been to better restaurants, although not by much, and I've been to restaurants far less fancy but thrice as arrogant and pompous. However, despite all our initial expectations, this restaurant has impressed me far more than any other has, and I've been to quite a few restaurants. Hello, Forsworn. So if you ever visit Melbourne, Australia, I don't know if there's another Melbourne, there almost definitely is. Probably in Canada somewhere, that seems to be where all the Australian clone cities are. High praise to number 35 on floor 35 of the Sofitel Hotel. Very, very highly recommend it. If not just for the food, for their service, just for everything. They were extremely good. Now I think that will do the episode for now. I'll kill this bear from a distance. It's going to be harder to kill this bear than I initially thought. Using this should freeze the water in place. What's the other game that does that? Magica. Magica? Yeah, Magica. In Magica where you, or Trying. You know Zoya's frost arrows in Trying, where you can shoot the water and it creates temporary ice platforms? You should be able to do that with this. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This has been Skyrim, I've been Kruisaiyder, that's been a bear trap, and I will see you next time.